You ran two very high-profile races here in Georgia that got a lot of national attention. Do you see yourself ever running for office again?
I think that's one of the tools in the toolbox. If you want to make life better, that's one of the things you do.
You called it one of the tools in your toolbox. There's an open governor's seat in Georgia in 2026. Is that something you're eyeing?
I look at all the opportunities and I evaluate how I can best serve. And so all options are on the table, but I'm focused right now on making Kamala Harris the next president of the United States of America.
And what happens after November 2024? It sounds like you're not ruling anything out.
I'm here to make life better, and however I can do that, that's the job I'm going to go after.
What is the state of the presidential race as you see it?
It's hyper competitive. It is absolutely winnable for Democrats. We are on the ascendance, and I do not see the momentum stopping.
Right here in Georgia, what's the impact of having Kamala Harris now at the top of the Democratic ticket?
I think what we're seeing in Georgia is reflective of what's happening around the country. We have had the Trump show for several years now. It's run its course. And while it was first Secretary Clinton and then President Biden who have been foils, it's critical, I think, for so many Georgians that we can move on. And Vice President Harris is a very strong departure from what we have seen, unfortunately, for the last 8 years of invective from a Donald Trump. But more importantly, the investment that we're seeing in Georgia because of the Biden Harris administration, we know that will continue under a President Harris. And I think people are excited about that opportunity.
Vice President Harris is also a change from President Joe Biden. What do you think Joe Biden's legacy will be now?
I think his legacy is that he has sown the seeds of opportunity in the state of Georgia. We have thousands of jobs coming into our state. Those battery plants, all of those investments are coming because of the Biden Harris administration, because of Joe Biden. We have thousands of Georgians who have seen their student debt relieved because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We have children who briefly were able to benefit from investment in school lunches because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And so we know that a lot of lives have been made better and can get even better if we continue those policies under President Harris.
What role will Georgia play in this 2024 presidential election?
We are a battleground state. And what that means is people have to fight to win Georgia. I am excited about the prospects of my party, but I'm even more excited about the opportunity for the people of Georgia. This is about our future. This is about our freedom. And we have a chance in this election to restart the narrative of Georgia and the US being a beacon of democracy, a beacon of freedom. Through Vice President Harris and Governor Walz, we can show not only America, but the world that Georgia is always going to be on the forefront of moving this country forward. And I'm excited to do what I can to make that so.
You have been critical of former President Trump for failing to concede when he lost in 2020. There are those who've criticized you and said that you failed to concede for several days after losing to Brian Kemp in 2018. What do you say to those critics?
I would say that first and foremost, my critique of Donald Trump is that he fomented an insurrection. He lied and misled this country, and he did his best to undo the election. I never did that. In fact, 10 days after the election, because no election results had been called, I absolutely acknowledged that Brian Kemp became the governor of Georgia. But I did as every American citizen should do, and I questioned any rules that would deny the right of voters to have their votes counted.
In 2020, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and Governor Brian Kemp, your former opponent, they faced a lot of pressure, including from former President Trump, to overturn the results of the 2020 election here in Georgia. And they didn't do that. They certified the results. Do you give them credit for their decisions in that moment?
I'm always proud of people doing the jobs they're supposed to do and not breaking the law. But you don't get credit for doing one thing and then allow the exact same thing to happen just under a different guise. If the state election board is allowed to allow those new rules to stand and counties do not certify the elections in a timely fashion, it will have a marked effect on whether Georgia's electoral college votes get counted. There are rules. And so, yes, it is a good thing that no one in the state of Georgia, and in fact, no one in the United States of America broke the law in 2020 to suborn election denialism. But what you did in 2020 is not going to be enough to stop bad action from happening in 24 unless we see the courage of our convictions and the upholding of our laws, and we defend the right to vote in the state of Georgia in this election.
And what specifically would that look like to make sure that, as you said, the laws are upheld and the election goes off without a hitch?
The current state election board is running amok. They are doing their best to undermine the citizens of the state of Georgia. We have, unfortunately, laws that were passed by the state legislature and signed by Governor Kemp that permit the mass challenges of voters. And we know those disproportionately target voters of color. We need a governor who is going to be as staunchly protective of the right to vote as anyone should be if you believe in democracy in Georgia. And we have not yet seen that. And so I strongly encourage him to decry and denounce what the state election board is doing, to ensure and to assure Georgians that he will take every action under his purview to make certain that our votes get certified in a timely fashion and that counties are not allowed to create their own rules and therefore their own outcome for the 2024 election.